All right, we are back here on the show. Make sure once more you like and subscribe to the channel. We are going to move into the NFL and the Giants Hard Knocks. Episode 1 came out a couple days ago, and the vocal point of the episode was Saquon Barkley and the decision to let him go. Joe Schoen was cited saying that we are not paying Daniel Jones $40 million to hand off to a $12 million back. Will Joe Schoen regret letting Saquon Barkley leave? And before I pass over this mic to Zay you brought up the topic, I'm going to play a clip. And after the clip, Zay, the mic is you.
Back and look at Saquon. Do you feel good about eating $3 to $4 million for a 5th round pick? Like I wouldn't.
I don't know. There's no guarantee we can trade him. So, having the needs that we have in a $12 million, 27-year-old running back.
Trading Saquon is a Hail Mary, and the drama and all that goes with it. We did that last year.
It's 10 years off my life dealing with it. Emotionally was draining. We spent a lot of time on it. But again, I don't want that to be the reason that we don't do what's best for the franchise.
Okay, so to take this step further, we lose Saquon, right? What's our identity going to be on offense now? And what's our plan to, what's the next step of that? I guess is what I'm thinking. Like, we're losing
Yeah, well, it's never.
a large part of our offense, our explosiveness, our touchdowns. Quarterback, if it's Daniel, depends on the run game.
We got to upgrade the offensive line, and you're paying the guy $40 million. It's not to hand the ball off to a $12 million back. My plan is to address the offensive line at some point here in free agency. We're sitting at 6. There's a chance there's an offensive weapon there. This is the year for Daniel. Plan all along was give him a couple years. Is he our guy for the next 10 years, or do we need to pivot?
Zay, the mic is yours.
That front office was completely confused on who Saquon Barkley was to the organization. The only guy that made this sense was Dennis Hickey. And then I just forgot his name. He just showed on the screen. The guy who said we're losing all our explosiveness if we lose Saquon. Those are the only general, thought thinkers in that damn office. Like the people that want to win, that know they want to win football games. They know what the eye test shows, and everyone else is head in the clouds. Oh, I don't want to pay $12 million a year for a 27-year-old quarterback. The guy who's producing all the offense, that's who you don't want to pay? Why does that make zero sense? You just paid Daniel Jones, and you just called him a project. You said, we'll give him a couple years, and we'll see. We'll hopefully see. And you paid him $40 million a year. And you said, we're going to see if he's the guy. You gave him $40 million to see if he's the guy, but you're complaining about $12 million to a running back who's your entire offense behind, as the GM said, a horrible offensive line. He even went on a Hard Knocks show and said even Patrick Mahomes couldn't produce behind this offensive line, but Saquon Barkley did. Then this is the guy that they're saying they don't want to pay. That we're paying a $40 million quarterback not to hand over to a $12 million running back. It was your decision to pay him. It is crazy. He absolutely regrets letting Saquon Barkley leave because he went to Philly. They were talking about the entire show who will pay Saquon Barkley. They were going back and forth. And no one anticipated Philly being that team. And that's what they get. Egg on their face. An organization that's been going to Super Bowls, that's been competing. That went to Super Bowl, that's been competing. And you got egg on your face thinking he couldn't do better than the offer you gave him. That he couldn't do better than that Giants organization. That he wasn't going to get that contract he was asking for, one, but so rightfully deserves. And you sat there with a smug grin on your face. Oh, it took off 10 years of my life. Oh, but I'm not giving him the money. We could trade him, but I don't think anyone will want him. What? This is Saquon Barkley we're talking about. And he is that's a I pray that they fire everybody in his office after Hard Knocks is over. Because I'm glad they caught that on tape. I'm glad they caught that on tape. Because that is the type of ridiculousness I've been talking about with this Giants front office. Since Tom Coughlin left, that we used to regard the Giants as a high-class organization. When Tom Coughlin was there, we were talking about the Giants in high regard. Since he left, it's been a clown show. It's been a joke. Nobody knows how to do their job since he left. How is that possible? Since Tom Coughlin has left that organization, not a single person has been able to do their job correctly. The best thing they did was get Brian Burns. And I hope that works out for them. Because I feel like the Giants' defensive line is going to be one of the best in football. But everything offensively, they can't get a playmaker to go there. They can't draft a playmaker to go there. Shout out to neighbors that finally got there. But they couldn't do anything right for close to a decade. This Giants organization is ridiculous. It is ridiculous, and I'm glad it's on full display. I'm glad it is on Broadway. It's on the big screens because this is ridiculous. That to question if Saquon Barkley, one of the most dynamic football players we've seen in quite some time at the running back position, is going to get paid his money. Ridiculous. Just ridiculous.
The light. Go ahead, Zach.
Everything good? All right, I can see now.
Yeah, I'm good.
They trying to shut the lights off on Lil too.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
Yeah. Wow, Zay, that was awesome. I'll start off by saying this. There were some moments of the show last night where I was pretty impressed with Joe Schoen. I think he's made some moves this offseason I really like. As I mentioned it, I love trading for Brian Burns. Not only just having to give up a second and a fifth, but the Panthers not that long ago turned down 2 first-round picks for him, and the Giants were able to get him for only a second and a fifth. That's great business. I think overall, the Giants' defense is going to be really good this season with Burns and Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence. Bobby Okereke has been a great free agent signing at the linebacker position. I even like some of their young players in the secondary, like first-round corner Devontae Banks. I thought he was really good as a rookie. They're going to ask him to be their number 1 corner. Cordell Flott, Tyler Nubin, rookie safety from Kentucky. He's most likely going to start at safety to replace Xavier McKinney. I think they got some good young players on defense, but I agree 100% with Zay. I really don't like how they handled the Saquon Barkley situation, and here's why. I understand that the narrative around running backs is that when they turn 27, they even said it in the show last night, that's when they get old. That's when you should pivot. It also isn't really a position of value, and that's why there are many running backs who get paid and fail to live up to that big money contract. But I just feel like Saquon Barkley was the leader of the Giants. The Giants used the number 2 overall pick on him, and I think deep down he loved being in New York. And there was even a clip on the show last night of Giants owner John Mara saying like he wants Saquon Barkley back. He told Joe Schoen about that. But most importantly, we just have to stop acting or pretending like Daniel Jones still has a chance to be the quarterback of the future for this team, because we all know the answer. He's not. After this year, he's most likely going to be gone. And I just think it's a travesty that the Giants paid Daniel Jones big money and let Saquon Barkley walk out the door for nothing. I don't care about positional value when deep down 2 years ago, when they beat the Vikings and won that playoff game, as good as Daniel Jones was, we all know who the main contributor to that offense was. We know that Saquon Barkley was the straw that stirred the drink. And I love Malik Neighbors. I think he's going to be a stud in this league. But let's be honest, the Giants should have drafted a quarterback. They should have taken J.J. McCarthy. They should have taken Bo Nix or blown the Patriots away so much that they would have accepted the trade for Drake May. We know that was reported. The Giants wanted to trade for Drake May in the draft. Like, they admitted, okay, Daniel Jones is not good enough. He's not the quarterback of the future. We all know it, but they still didn't draft the quarterback. And I feel like that would have been a move that really would have helped Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll's shelf life, because if you draft a young quarterback, you bring Barkley back to improve that situation with an improved offensive and defensive line too. I think if you're Schoen and Daboll, you could have at least sold ownership that you have a vision and there's a reason to keep us here as long as possible. But unfortunately, I think the most likely outcome for the Giants this season is that they're going to win 6 or 7 games, and there's a good chance that Brian Daboll and maybe even Joe Schoen are shown the door and ownership decides to bring in a big name like a Bill Belichick or a Mike Vrabel. Like, even if the Giants catch a few breaks this season, because last year we know they sure as hell didn't, I don't think they're winning anything of substance this year, which means this regime could be in danger when it comes to their jobs. At least if you would have drafted a young quarterback, you could show ownership like, okay, there's reason to keep us around. We're developing this guy. I'm Brian Daboll, the same guy that won a playoff game with Daniel Jones. But instead, this regime is going to spend another season trying to sell us that Daniel Jones is the quarterback of the future of this team, when deep down, we all know he's not. And I thought Zay hit it on the head. You're paying this guy $40 million. The fact that you're still asking if he's the quarterback of the future for this team tells us all we need to know.
All right. No, I don't think Joe Schoen is going to regret letting Saquon Barkley leave. I totally disagree with you guys. I don't think you're hitting it from an angle that I think we need to hit it on. First of all, we are not giving any long term or lifelong contracts to a running back. It's not going to happen. Okay, this is not Udonis Haslam on Miami. This is not like this is a running back here. We're not giving no long term, lifelong contracts to a running back. It's the NFL we're talking about here. Okay. And I know I've been an advocate for running backs. I think they are disrespected, but at the end of the day, sometimes time examples that pass, kind of like throw me off of that, trend based on what I see. There's a reason why that myth is not a myth. It exists for a reason because of prior, examples of why you don't pay a running back. It's not just something that's created and fabricated through the mainstream narrative. It's real, okay? And I think for me, when you talk about, prioritizing the quarterback, you're supposed to do that. That's something that you're supposed to do over your running back. Think about it from this perspective, okay? Zach Moss, take him for an example. Okay, my guy came in last year, and arguably, I don't think there was no valuable running back more than Zach Moss last year because of the cheap contract, what they gave up to get him, and what he gave on the field in JT's absence. Everybody was talking about Jonathan Taylor. Oh, he's going to be out for the half of the season. And then you get Zach Moss in there, and then he performs well. Okay, you replace JT for that specific time period until he came back. Y'all were winning games. He kept y'all afloat. You don't pay running backs, okay? And then when you talk about Saquon Barkley and then who they replace him with, the Giants here, Devin Singletary. Well, last year he had a good year in Houston, okay? And we all know that he's going to make their passing game a little bit more effective because he can catch out of the backfield and he's going to be utilized in screens. That's going to give Daniel Jones some layup throws. What the Giants have done to Daniel Jones is nothing more than an abomination. The fact that they didn't protect this man with the offensive line. Think about how many offensive linemen that Saquon Barkley has played with in his career with the Giants. 29. Okay, that same lineman is blocking for Daniel Jones as well. Okay, and then you talk about the wide receivers. Who are they names prior to this year? I know about Malik Neighbors. Okay, but prior to this year, you mean to tell me Wan'Dale Robinson is a guy that's going to win you a Super Bowl? You mean to tell me, what's the other dude? Darius Slayton on a one-horse open sleigh? Huh? No. Okay, even Santa can't ride him. No, did he? Okay, no diddy. Okay, now back to my point. The Giants committing to building around Daniel Jones is a smart play to make because that's your quarterback as of right now. Building the offensive line, which they did via free agency, getting him some weapons, Malik Neighbors, Isaiah McKenzie, who's going to be in your slot. That's the right move and play to make because you paid this guy $160 million. He has to show you that, all right, this year is make or break. You're not going to have Saquon Barkley this year to hand the ball off to you. You're not going to have that luxury. Show me that you can be the starting quarterback for the next 10 years. That's what Joe Schoen is saying. That's the point that he's making. I understand his point to a T. And I understand the owner's point as well. He made it clear that he believes that Saquon Barkley is the vocal point. You hear him. All right, what's going to happen if we lose a vocal point of our offense? Well, Joe Schoen is saying we paid Daniel Jones. What are we paying him for? If he cannot win and produce without Saquon Barkley, what are we paying him for? He has to show us something. But what he's also acknowledging is that he didn't do right by Daniel Jones to get up to this point anyway. Okay, because he even said that Patrick Mahomes can't even have success behind this offensive line. There's merit to that. Say what you want about Patrick Mahomes and how he can raise the ceiling. That's nonsense. Okay, I understand Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL, right? But at the end of the day, to sit here and say that he would raise their ceiling, no, not behind that offensive line. And we have proof of that because when he played in the Super Bowl, his worst game ever in his whole career, he was missing 2 offensive linemen. He was running for his life. That was the worst game of his career. So I understand Daniel Jones may not be good. There's certain things that I like about his game, and there's certain things I don't like about his game. But what Joe Schoen is saying, which I agree with, is that thus far We have not given Daniel Jones a proper opportunity to succeed. And now that we paid him his contract, we are going to do that this year, at least try to, and see if that's our guy moving forward, because quarterbacks are more relevant, more valuable, and more important than a running back.
And that's the issue right there, because we were told ourselves that for decades, we told ourselves for years, but we never acknowledged the playmakers outside of the receivers. The running backs get the ball most of the time of the game. They actually are the ones that give the quarterback enough time.
But it's not like you don't have a running back. It's not like you're going to be passing.
You don't have
second,
Saquon
third
Barkley.
down. You got.
That's the thing. You don't have Saquon Barkley. We could talk about Devil Singletary, like the Houston Texans didn't have C.J. Stroud doing God's work on that team. He was doing fantastic. It wasn't Devin Singletary that was playing behind a terrible offensive line. It was C.J. Stroud making any receiver.
Every running back that has left Buffalo has gotten a career rejuvenation. Look at Zach Moss. He came from Buffalo. He couldn't do nothing on Buffalo because they couldn't block. Okay, as far as running game, okay, opening the gap. Same thing with Devin Singletary. Yeah, and I get that point, but you have to realize as well, he's going to be a additional tool in the passing game. That's what they're going to do.
But you could have had Barkley and Malik Neighbors on the team, and now your team looks a lot better than just Malik Neighbors, because Devin Singletary, as good as of the year he had last year, you can't say he's going to mimic that year. You're going to say he's going to have a better year, because you don't know what to expect from this offensive line, and that's been a year in, year out, as you just stated, with the Giants. We don't know what to expect with that offensive line. And yes, I agree with you. Daniel Jones did not have a lot of playmakers during his tenure as a starting quarterback. But guess what? They're not getting any more. They didn't do themselves of a service by getting rid of Saquon Barkley, a playmaker. Isaiah McKenzie's not going to fix that. Anyone else they brought in is not going to fix that. It's going to be the similar situation where he has lack of playmakers, and guess what? They're going to move on for him regardless. Why would you pay a man $40 million if you're not going to anticipate adding the playmakers you have on the team? That didn't make sense, especially if you're still questioning if he's the quarterback. How the hell you pay a guy you're not sure of? That didn't make sense at all. And I was just like, well, then why the hell do we pay him if you don't know?
Well, I just wanted to respond to your point. Like, I agree. I think we're all on the same page. Like, the Giants definitely didn't do a great job putting Daniel Jones in the best position to succeed throughout his first couple years in New York. But my issue with that is when you decide to pay him $40 million a year, that's kind of changing the curve. Like, when you're making that move, you're saying, okay, it doesn't really matter who you have around you. Like, we believe in you no matter what, that you're going to make other guys around you better. And I know the offensive line hasn't been good, but I just feel like this situation reminds me of Russell Wilson in Denver this past year, where maybe with a better offensive line, with Malik Neighbors, Daniel Jones puts up some good numbers and he might have a decent year. But I just think when Joe Schoen in that clip is saying like, oh, we need to see if Daniel Jones could be our quarterback for the next decade. Like, come on, bro, like stop it. We all know he's not going to be the quarterback of this team for the next decade. And you need to find someone like, well, that was going to be my question for you. Like, what are your expectations for Daniel Jones and the Giants this season? And how do you expect it to play out after that? And what do you do at the quarterback position if it's not Daniel Jones? Because that's where I think this team gets stuck, which is why in a loaded quarterback class in this past year's draft, I would have really prioritized getting one instead of drafting Malik Neighbors.
As far as the second part question that you just asked me, I'm going to save that because that's actually going to be addressed at the end of the show. Okay, so I'm not going to spoil anything. And that's one of the reasons why we texted back and forth that I was going to use this topic as the bridge to that take. So that's going to be answered. But as far as your first question about my expectations in regards to Daniel Jones and the Giants this year, I don't really know what to expect from this team because I don't think this team is going to do that pop-up, planting the flag, or we're going to make a playoff visit and win a playoff game like they did a couple years ago. Now, what I do think is that Daniel Jones don't get a lot of praise for that season in particular. Everybody look at that season as Saquon Barkley having this monster year. And don't get me wrong, he had a very good year, probably his best season that year they won the playoff game. But Daniel Jones was slinging that rock against the Vikings.
That's why the Giants paid him, right? Like, he does get credit. That's why he got paid.
And that's why he got paid. But the media didn't give him that credit. You know what I'm saying? But he got paid. They saw, what he did, and they rewarded him for that. But I think when you talk about the offensive line, how terrible it is, the wide receivers, how terrible that is, even your guy Brian Dable, his schemes is trash. Okay, we live off this narrative. Oh, he helped Josh Allen, but I mean, the quarterback guru was out here doing quarterback voodoo. That scheme was trash. Guys are not
I
getting
mean,
open.
hey, but what about Tommy
Okay.
DeVito? He had Tommy DeVito looking pretty good.
Yeah,
Didn't he?
but we all know that. That's another Minshew mania, Linsanity. I
I
mean,
know,
we
but
get that
doesn't
time to time here
Dable was
in New
winning
York,
games with
especially.
him.
Okay, he won a couple games. Okay,
Dude, they beat Jordan Love. They beat the Packers
yeah,
on Monday
they
Night
beat,
Football.
but Jordan Love didn't play good in that game either. And I watched the tape, but I really remember watching that game vividly. He missed some throws in that game. That game they were supposed to win. But my point being
Hey, that's
is
the number 2
that
quarterback in the NFL right now. You're talking about.
is that Joe Schoen, he knows he done wrong to Daniel Jones, and what he's trying to do is amend that by prioritizing other things that could drastically help him out. Yes, Saquon Barkley has helped him out in his career, having that guy that you can hand the ball off to that can create something out of nothing, was very explosive. Let's be clear here. Devin Singletary is not more explosive and is not a better player than Saquon Barkley. But look at the contract that Saquon Barkley got with the Eagles, and look what Devin Singletary is getting. Look what Zach Moss is getting to replace a guy like Joe Mixon, who a lot of people would think is a better player than Zach Moss. They paying him only $8 million. So at the end of the day, it's about value. It's about running, having a running game by committee. It's about your quarterback elevating your team. And I think the Giants, in their eyes, I don't think these weapons are enough, but Malik Neighbors is a start. I think in their eyes, they've done wrong by Daniel Jones, and they just want to give him some more help with the offensive line and with, obviously, the wide receivers.
They're going to give him help, all right. They're going to give him the boot.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, my final thought on this, guys, is I think the Giants could be improved this year. Daniel Jones hopefully is able to stay healthy. I think the situation with Neighbors is at least better than it's been in years past. But my issue is I think the most likely outcome is that this Giant team is going to win like 7 games, miss the playoffs, and Joe Schoen and Brian Dable are going to get fired because of it. And I just don't know what you could sell this ownership to keep your job without a quarterback. Like, if your only plan to ownership is, oh, Daniel Jones is going to be our quarterback for the next decade, and you only won 7 games and missed the playoffs for the second year in a row, I think the most likely outcome is you're out the door, especially when we know the history and ties Bill Belichick has to this Giants organization.
And that's what this season is all about. It's the moment of truth for the Giants. There's a lot of jobs, and that's why I like Zay's take for 99 that he did the last time we did this segment, was that he emphasized that it's a make or break year for Daniel Jones, for Brian Dable, for the GM. Like, yes, that's what it's all about. Giving yourself another opportunity to show that you can be, or show a level of competence. Otherwise, we got to replace you with confidence. And I think I just want to talk about Saquon Barkley a little bit more here.
Before you do that, Will, like, how do we think the season is going? Like,
I know
it's a break.
I don't think the Giants are good. Like how I did last year. You picked them to win the division last year or have a good year last year. Clearly, I wasn't on that train because I didn't think they were talented enough. Look at what the Cowboys got. Look at what the Eagles got. Even the Commanders have a little bit more than the Giants do. I think it's going to be the same thing this year. But I do think that dude Malik Neighbors is a stud, and I think he's going to help Daniel Jones look a little bit more better. But how better? That's the question that we got to find out for ourselves, because at the end of the day, it starts with the offensive line. They got to play better. It starts up front. And if they're going to continue to miss assignments and guys, literally walking right into the party with no security guard checking them, at the line of scrimmage, then it's going to be a sack party in the backfield, which it has been for Daniel Jones' career. A sack party.
You see my issue, though. Like, we all are on the same page. We don't think this team is going to be very good this year. And that likely means Joe Schoen and Brian Dable are getting fired. So if you know that you're likely out the door, I don't understand how you could then defend that by saying letting Barkley go is the right move.
I mean, look, in regards to Saquon Barkley, him going to the Eagles is very unfortunate. That's a very unfortunate part of all of this. The fact not only that he left, but he went to the rival Eagles, and he's going to make them better. Now, I'm not sure how we feel about the Eagles. Obviously, we're not going to get into that today, but they still got questions that got to get mapped out. But Saquon Barkley, no doubt, is a talent that is actually going to be better for them and for him. This is a better move for him. This is great for Saquon Barkley because he's going to go to an offensive line that can block. He's going to go to a situation where they have one of the best offensive lines in the league. I told you how many different offensive linemen that he played with the Giants, 29 in his 6-year career. With the Giants, I believe it's 6 years. It may be shorter than that, maybe longer than that. I think it's right 6 years. And he's going to go to that team. He's going to have a lot of opportunities. You got to respect the RPO game with Jalen Hurts, and you got to respect the wide receivers on the perimeter. So I do think it's a great thing for Saquon Barkley, and I think he made a great decision taking the money, taking an opportunity to compete for a championship. And I really condemn all those guys that was calling him out his name, Tiki Barber, oh, you're dead to me. Stop it. He took the money. Anybody else would take the money. Okay, any human being would take the money, and he took an opportunity to compete for a championship, something that the Giants, unfortunately, will not be doing.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.